The war room of Fortress Station Meridian smelled like recycled air and fear. Commander Hyan Wu stood before the holographic display, watching red markers spread across the star map like a disease. Each marker represented a lost world. Each one meant billions of lives consumed by the Vex swarm. "They've taken the Helios sector," Captain Dayon reported, his voice tight. "Complete orbital superiority. Our fleets can't hold them back anymore." Hyan Wu said nothing. What could he say? The Coalition had been fighting the Vex for 3 years. 3 years of losing. The enemy didn't negotiate, didn't tire, didn't stop. They just consumed everything in their path and moved to the next target. Standard weapons barely slowed them down. Biological warfare backfired when the Vex adapted within hours. Nuclear options only bought time. They were running out of options. Running out of time. Running out of hope. Dr. Minji entered the room carrying a data tablet, her expression uncertain. "Commander, we received a response to the emergency broadcast." Hyan Wu turned. 6 months ago, the Coalition had sent desperate messages to every corner of known space, begging for help, offering anything in return. Most responses were useless. Some were scams. A few were from species too far away to matter. From where? He asked. Unknown sector. The coordinates place it far beyond our mapped territory. They call their world Sol 3, but their species name translates roughly to human. Minji pulled up the message. "It's short. We offer a solution. 1 unit. Guaranteed results." Daeyun laughed bitterly. 1 unit? 1 soldier? Against the entire Vex swarm? This has to be a joke. "They send specifications," Minji continued. "The unit is biological, not mechanical. No special equipment required. They're asking for coordinates to deliver it." Hyan Wu studied the message. Something about it felt different from the other responses. It wasn't boastful or demanding. Just simple and direct. "What do we know about these humans?" "Nothing. They're not in any database. The sector they're from is completely unexplored by Coalition standards. So we're supposed to trust an unknown species to send us a mystery weapon." Daeyun shook his head. "This is insane." "Everything we've tried is insane," Hyan Wu replied quietly. "And it's all failed. What's one more desperate attempt?" The decision went to the Coalition Council. The debate lasted 3 hours. Half the council called it foolish. The other half argued they had nothing left to lose. In the end, desperation won. They sent the coordinates. 2 weeks later, a vessel appeared on their sensors. It was small, primitive by Coalition standards, moving on chemical propulsion. The hull showed signs of atmospheric entry burns and micrometeorite impacts. Whatever species built it had working technology, but nothing advanced. "Reading 1 life sign," the scanner operator reported. "In some kind of stasis pod. The ship is on autopilot. They brought the vessel into the hangar bay using tractor beams. Security teams surrounded it, weapons ready. Nobody knew what to expect. When the hatch opened, they found a cylindrical chamber filled with frost. Inside was a creature unlike anything in Coalition records. It was small. Maybe 6 feet tall. No natural armor. No visible weapons. No claws, no fangs, no venom sacs. Skin that looked thin and easily damaged. The body seemed almost fragile, wrapped in some kind of basic environmental suit. This is their weapon? Daeyun whispered. "It looks weak." Dr. Minji approached the pod carefully, her scanning equipment active. "Wait, these readings don't make sense." She adjusted her scanner and ran it again. The skeletal structure is dense but flexible. The musculature is redundant, layered for endurance rather than burst strength. And the brain? She paused, rechecking her equipment. The brain is using enormous amounts of energy, even in stasis. What does that mean? Hyan-Wu asked. I don't know yet, but this creature's biology is full of contradictions. It seems designed for long-term operation under stress, rather than short combat bursts. They transported the pod to a secure medical facility. Researcher Ji-Wan joined Mingji in running tests. The more they discovered, the more confused they became. The creature's blood contained antibodies for diseases that didn't exist in Coalition space. Its lungs could process a wider range of atmospheric compositions than any known species. The cardiovascular system showed signs of operating under extreme conditions. Look at this, Ji-Wan said, pulling up a detailed scan. There are trace elements in the tissue suggesting exposure to radiation, chemical toxins, and extreme temperatures. This thing has been through environments that should have killed it. Or it evolved in them, Mingji suggested. Maybe their world is hostile. That would explain the robust biology. 3 days later, they began the revival process. Hyan-Wu insisted on being present, along with a full security team. As the stasis chamber warmed and the frost melted away, they watched the creature's vital signs climb to active levels. The eyes opened first. They were unlike any eyes Hyan-Wu had seen. They didn't just look around the room. They analyzed, measured, calculated distances and angles. The creature assessed every person, every exit, every potential threat in seconds. Then it sat up calmly, as if waking from a normal sleep rather than weeks of cryogenic stasis. The creature removed its breathing apparatus and spoke. The words were meaningless until the translation device activated. Atmosphere is breathable. Gravity is 0.94 standard. Temperature is comfortable. The creature's voice was measured, controlled. I am designated Taiyang. I was told you have a problem with an infestation. Where do you need me? Hyan-Wu stepped forward. I'm Commander Hyan-Wu of the Galactic Coalition. You're on Fortress Station Meridian. We're at war with a species called the Vex Swarm. They've consumed 12 sectors and show no signs of stopping. Our forces can't hold them back. Taiyang nodded slowly, processing the information. Understood. What are their capabilities? They're fast, strong, and highly adaptive. They operate as a hive mind. Individual units show no fear and will sacrifice themselves for tactical advantage. Their biology allows them to survive in vacuum and extreme temperatures. They reproduce rapidly and can consume almost any organic or inorganic matter for resources. And you've tried conventional warfare? Everything. Kinetic weapons, energy weapons, biological agents, nuclear options. They adapt to everything we throw at them. Taiyang stood up from the medical bed. The security team tensed, but the human made no aggressive moves. Instead, Taiyang began a series of stretches, methodically testing each muscle group. How long until you can arrange a meeting with one of these Vex? Dayan spoke up. A meeting? You want to negotiate with them? No, I want to study one. See how it moves, how it thinks, what it fears. They don't fear anything. Hyan-Wu said. Taiyang looked at him with those calculating eyes. Everything fears something, Commander, even if it's just the absence of purpose. Show me a Vex, and I'll show you how to kill them. The way Taiyang said it wasn't boastful or aggressive. It was simply stated fact, delivered with absolute certainty. Hyan-Wu felt something he hadn't felt in months. Not quite hope. Not yet. But something close to it. We have a captured specimen in containment, he said. It's killed 17 of our soldiers during previous containment breaches. Are you sure you want to meet it? Taiyang smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. It was the smile of a predator who had just found prey. Commander, I didn't travel across the galaxy to stay safe. Take me to it. As they left the medical bay, Dr. Mingji pulled Hyan-Wu aside. Sir, We still don't know what this creature is capable of, or what its species wants in return for this help. Haiyan Wu watched Tai Yang walk down the corridor, moving with an economy of motion that suggested extensive training. No, we don't. But we're about to find out. Prepare the combat arena. Let's see what humanity sent us. The mystery had arrived, and whatever happened next would change everything. The combat arena was built for two purposes: training coalition soldiers and testing captured enemy specimens. It was a circular room, 50 meters across, with reinforced walls designed to contain explosions. Observation decks lined the upper levels, protected by thick, transparent aluminum. Below, the floor was bare metal, stained with various colors of alien blood. Private Yunji stood at the observation window, her hands pressed against the glass. She had volunteered to monitor the human, curious about the creature that had traveled so far to help them. Now she was having second thoughts. "This is wrong," she said to Dr. Minji, who stood beside her with a medical scanner. "That thing down there killed 17 trained soldiers. The human doesn't even have armor." "Admiral Su-Yun insisted on proof before deployment," Minji replied. "The Council won't commit resources based on promises alone. They need to see results." Below them, Tai Yang stood in the center of the arena, wearing only light clothing and boots. The human carried a simple metal rod, maybe 3 feet long, provided by the Coalition Armory. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. Just a piece of metal. Across the arena, a reinforced door began to open. The captured Vex emerged slowly, its body low to the ground like a predator. It stood 8 feet tall and fully upright, with 4 arms ending in blade-sharp appendages. Its exoskeleton was dark gray, covered in scarred plates that showed it had survived many battles. The eyes were multifaceted, processing information faster than most. Species could think. Private Yunji had seen footage of Vex in combat. They moved with terrible speed and perfect efficiency. This one had killed because its containment protocols failed. It hadn't been killed in return, because every soldier who tried died first. "Begin observation." Admiral Su-Yun's voice came through the speakers. "Tai Yang, you may engage when ready." The Vex noticed the human immediately. Its head tilted, analyzing. Then it charged out. It was impossibly fast. Yunji barely saw it move before it crossed 20 meters of arena floor. The Vex's bladed arms came, down in a killing strike that would have split the human in half. Tai Yang wasn't there anymore. The human had moved left, not with superior speed, but with perfect timing. The Vex's strike hit empty air. Before the creature could recover, Tai Yang struck its joint with the metal rod. The hit was precise, targeting a gap in the exoskeleton armor. The Vex hissed and spun, faster than before. It learned from the first exchange. Its next attack came from multiple angles, all 4 arms striking in sequence. Any one hit would be fatal? Tai Yang blocked 2 strikes with the rod, deflected a third with a precisely angled shoulder movement, and took the 4th hit on purpose. The blade cut across the human's left shoulder, tearing fabric and skin. Blood appeared immediately. Yunji gasped. "The human is injured." "Stop the test." But Tai Yang didn't stop. The human didn't even seem to notice the wound. Instead, Tai Yang had used the moment of contact to study the Vex's attack pattern. The next exchange was different. The Vex struck again, confident now. It had drawn blood. Its prey was wounded. But this time, every attack missed. Tai Yang moved with minimal effort, letting strikes pass by centimeters. The human was no longer reacting. The human was predicting. Dr. Minji's scanner beeped. The human's heart rate is elevated but controlled. Adrenaline is present, but not flooding the system. It's like Tai Yang is managing the stress response consciously. Commander Haiyan Wu entered the observation deck, drawn by reports of the test. He watched in silence as Tai Yang and the Vex circled each other. "Get studying the creature," he said quietly. "This isn't a fight. It's an examination." The Vex attacked again, frustrated now. It moved with pure aggression, abandoning strategy. That was its mistake. Tai Yang moved inside the creature's reach, too close for the long blades to be effective. The metal rod struck 3 times in rapid succession, once to crack the exoskeleton, once to drive fragments into the joint, and once to shatter the internal structure. The Vex's right front arm went limp. The creature tried to adapt, shifting its attack pattern to compensate for the damaged limb. But Tai Yang had already learned enough. The human moved with ruthless efficiency now, targeting joints, sensory organs, and structural weak points. Each strike was economical, wasting no energy on unnecessary movement. 4 minutes after the fight began, it ended. The Vex lay on the arena floor, its limbs broken in multiple places, its sensory organs destroyed. It was still alive, but completely unable to fight. Tai Yang stood over it, breathing hard but steady, still holding the metal rod. "Medical team to the arena," Haiyan Wu ordered. Now, the team rushed in with equipment. They approached the Vex first, but Tai Yang waved them toward the wounded shoulder. "I'm functional. Secure the specimen first. I want it alive for study." Dr. Minji ran a quick scan of Tai Yang's injury while the team restrained the Vex. What she saw made her stop. "Commander, you need to see this." Haiyan Wu looked at the scan display. The wound was already clotting. The bleeding had nearly stopped, and the tissue around the cut showed signs of accelerated cellular activity. "How is that possible?" "It's been less than 5 minutes." "I don't know. Human biology seems to prioritize rapid healing. But there's more." Minji pulled up the combat footage and ran it frame by frame. "Look here." The moment Tai Yang was hit, the pain response is visible, but it doesn't affect combat performance. The human brain is processing the injury and deciding it's not immediately relevant. Private Yunji watched the replay. "It's like pain is just information instead of a limitation." "Exactly," Minji said. "Most species experience pain as a signal to stop. For humans, it seems to be just data to incorporate into decision-making." They transported Tai Yang to the medical bay. The human refused sedation, instead watching calmly as they cleaned and sealed the wound. Within an hour, what should have taken weeks to heal had already scabbed over. Admiral Su Yun arrived for the debriefing. His expression was troubled. "I've watched the footage 12 times. You held back. You could have killed that Vex in the first 30 seconds. Tai Yang nodded. "Yes, why didn't you?" "Because killing one Vex doesn't help you win the war. Understanding how they move, how they think, what vulnerabilities they have, that helps. I needed time to study it." "You used yourself as bait," Dayan said. "You let it cut you so you could measure its strike speed and force." "The wound was superficial and controlled. I knew where it would hit and how deep. The information was worth the cost." Haiyan Wu leaned forward. "What did you learn?" Tai Yang pulled up a holographic display and began marking points on a Vex body diagram. They rely on speed and multiple attack vectors. Their exoskeleton is strong, but has predictable weak points at the joints. Their sensory organs are powerful, but centralized, making them vulnerable to focused strikes. They attack with confidence because most species panic under pressure. Remove that advantage by staying calm, and they become manageable. "One-on-one, perhaps," Admiral Su Yun said. "But the Vex fight in swarms, hundreds at a time, sometimes thousands. Then you don't fight them one by one. You make them come to you in terrain that limits their numbers. You use their aggression against them. You make every attack cost them more than it costs you. Taiyang paused. And you never, ever give up. Because the moment you accept defeat, you've already lost. Private Yunji spoke up hesitantly. But you're just one person. How can one soldier change the outcome of an entire war? Taiyang looked at her with those calculating eyes. I'm not here to fight the war alone. I'm here to show you how to win it. Humans aren't stronger than the Vex. We're not faster. We're not smarter, individually. But we learned something a long time ago on our world. Wars aren't won by the strongest species. They're won by the most stubborn. Dr. Minji pulled Haiyan Wu aside after the debriefing. I've been analyzing the data we received with Taiyang's ship. There are historical records, biological information, even cultural documents. Commander, humans are terrifying. How so? Their world tried to kill them at every stage of evolution. Ice ages, predators, diseases, natural disasters. Most species would have gone extinct. Humans just refused to die. They adapted, they persisted, and they survived things that should have wiped them out dozens of times. She showed him an image of Earth. This is their world. It's beautiful but deadly. And they thrived there, not because they were the strongest, but because they simply wouldn't quit. Haiyan Wu studied the image. A blue and green world, covered in clouds, teeming with life. What kind of species does that create? The kind that sends a single soldier across the galaxy to fight someone else's war, Minji said quietly. Because they believe they can help. Because they refuse to accept that some problems can't be solved. That night, Haiyan Wu reviewed the combat footage again. He watched Taiyang take the hit, study the enemy, and methodically dismantle a creature that had killed 17 trained soldiers. But what struck him most was the expression on the human's face. Not rage, not fear, just focused determination. Admiral Suyun appeared beside him. Well, Commander, what's your assessment? I think we didn't receive a weapon, Haiyan Wu said slowly. We received something much more dangerous. We received someone who believes losing is impossible. And is that good or bad for us? Haiyan Wu thought about the spreading red markers on the star map. The lost sectors. The millions of consumed lives. I don't know yet, but I know this. If the Vex think they've already won, they haven't met humanity. And they're not ready for what that means. The briefing room was crowded with military personnel, all watching the tactical display showing the Moon Drax 2. Lieutenant Bowman stood at attention, his jaw tight as Commander Haiyan Wu explained the situation. 3 outposts went dark 6 days ago. Satellite imagery shows Vex activity throughout the primary settlement zones. We estimate 1,500 civilians are trapped in emergency shelters. Standard protocol would be orbital bombardment to eliminate the Vex presence. But we can't, Lieutenant Bowman said flatly. Not with civilians still down there. Correct. The shelters are reinforced, but won't survive orbital strikes. A ground assault is the only option. However, previous ground operations against established Vex positions have a 92% casualty rate. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. Sending troops down there was sending them to die. Taeyang stood near the back of the room, studying the tactical display. The human's shoulder wound was now barely visible, healing faster than anyone had predicted. What's the Vex force estimate? Minimum 300 active units. Possibly more. They've had 6 days to establish a hive structure. And your plan is what? Send in a battalion and hope some survive long enough to evacuate the civilians? Haiyan Wu's expression darkened. Unless you have a better suggestion. Yes, that's the plan. I do have a better suggestion. Send me. The room erupted in protests. Lieutenant Bowman stepped forward. With respect, 1 soldier against 300 Vex is suicide. The combat test was controlled. This is an active war zone. Tai Yang looked at him calmly. I'm not asking permission. I'm volunteering. But I won't stop you from coming along if you want to learn. Captain Dayan spoke up. Learn what? How to die quickly. How to win against worse odds. How to turn the enemy's advantages into weaknesses. How to make 300 Vex regret establishing a hive on that moon. Tai Yang stepped closer to the display. I've reviewed your tactical doctrine. You fight with overwhelming force, advanced technology, and air support. That works against conventional enemies. The Vex adapt to it. You need to fight differently. How? Hyan Wu asked. Like you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Like the mission is all that matters. Like giving up isn't an option. Tai Yang pulled up a terrain map. The Vex hive will be centralized, probably in the old industrial sector where they have access to raw materials. They'll have patrols, but their hive mind makes them predictable. They communicate constantly, which means we can manipulate what information they share. Lieutenant Bowman studied the map. Against his better judgment, he found himself interested. Manipulate how? By showing them what we want them to see. By making them believe their victories when they're actually walking into traps. By being patient and never stopping, even when it seems impossible. The debate lasted another hour. In the end, Hyan Wu authorized a small team, Tai Yang, Lieutenant Bowman, and 4 specialists, including Communications Officer Hana. They would deploy via stealth pods, infiltrate the surface, and attempt to locate and extract civilians while disrupting the Vex hive. Specialist Hana approached Tai Yang before launch. She was young, barely out of training, and clearly nervous. I've never been on a ground mission before. Not in a hot zone. Then this will be educational, Tai Yang said, checking equipment. Aren't you afraid? The human paused. Fear is just your body preparing for action. It's useful if you control it. Deadly if you let it control you. Feel the fear. Then do the job anyway. They launched at midnight, station time. 6 stealth pods separated from the dropship and descended through Draxdu's atmosphere. The landing was rough. Bowman's pod impacted in a forest clearing. Tai Yang's landed 200 meters away. The team regrouped within 15 minutes, moving through darkness with night vision equipment. The first Vex patrol found them an hour into the mission. 4 units, moving in standard search formation. Bowman prepared to engage, but Tai Yang signaled for silence. They watched the patrol pass within 10 meters, completely unaware of the team's presence. Why didn't we attack? One of the specialists whispered. Because killing 4 Vex tells the hive that enemies are present, Tai Yang replied quietly. Not killing them tells the hive nothing. We stay invisible until it benefits us to be seen. They moved for 6 hours, covering 12 kilometers of hostile territory. Bowman noticed something strange. His soldiers needed rest breaks every 2 hours. Standard military protocol. But Tai Yang never stopped. The human just kept moving with mechanical efficiency. Don't you need to rest? He asked during one break. I'll rest when the mission is complete. That's not how biology works. Everyone needs rest. Tai Yang looked at him with those calculating eyes. My biology works differently. Humans evolved as pursuit predators. We can keep moving longer than almost any other creature on our world. It's not comfortable, but it's possible. Specialist Hana, monitoring from orbit, contacted them. I'm tracking 70 Vex signatures, converging on your position. You've been detected. Good, Tai Yang said, surprising everyone. Bowman, take your team to the shelter coordinates. I'll draw the Vex off. That's suicide. No, it's tactics. The hive thinks in terms of threats. I'm about to become the biggest threat they've seen. They'll commit resources to eliminate me. While they're distracted, you extract the civilians. Before Bowman could argue, Taiyang disappeared into the darkness. 5 minutes later, an explosion lit up the night sky. Then another. The human was systematically destroying Vex resource nodes, drawing their attention. The plan worked. Vex forces redirected toward Taiyang's position. Bowman's team reached the first shelter and found 300 civilians, terrified but alive. They began evacuation procedures while monitoring Taiyang's progress. What they heard over the comm was disturbing. Taiyang fought for hours. Not in one location, but across kilometers of territory. The human moved constantly, setting traps, collapsing structures, using the environment as a weapon. When Vex adapted to one tactic, Taiyang switched to another. Taiyang, your vitals are showing severe fatigue, Hana reported. You need to extract. Negative. Still have 2 more shelters to clear. How many civilians evacuated? 300 from the first shelter. But you've been fighting for 11 hours straight. Your body is breaking down. My body will hold. Just keep those evacuation shuttles coming. Bowman reached the second shelter with his team. 200 more civilians. But the Vex had adapted. They split their forces. Half pursued Taiyang. Half moved to recapture the shelters. Taiyang, we're cut off, Bowman reported. 20 Vex between us and the extraction point. We can't fight through that many with civilians. Yes, you can. Stop thinking like you need perfect odds. Use the civilians as motivation. Use the terrain as force multiplier. Use the Vex's aggression against them. Make them pay for every meter. Bowman looked at his team. They were exhausted, frightened, facing impossible odds. Then he remembered Taiyang's words. Giving up isn't an option. Set up defensive positions, he ordered. We're not leaving anyone behind. The battle was brutal. Bowman's team fought with new determination, using tactics learned from watching Taiyang. They funneled the Vex through narrow corridors. They used environmental hazards. They refused to retreat and slowly, impossibly, they pushed through. Specialist Hannah watched from orbit in disbelief. Commander Haiyan Wu, you need to see this. Bowman's team is fighting like they've forgotten how to lose. Haiyan Wu watched the tactical feed. They learned from the human. They're fighting with persistence instead of technology. Taiyang reached the third shelter alone, 18 hours into the mission. The human was injured. Multiple lacerations. Possible broken ribs. Severe fatigue. But Taiyang kept moving, extracting the last group of civilians while holding off Vex reinforcements. Dr. Minji monitored the medical telemetry. This shouldn't be possible. Taiyang's cortisol levels are extreme. Pain response indicators are maxed out. The human should have collapsed hours ago. But Taiyang hasn't collapsed, Haiyan Wu observed. Why? Because the mission isn't complete. Taiyang's conscious mind is overriding self-preservation instincts. I've never seen anything like it. The extraction took 26 hours total. Every civilian was evacuated. Every coalition soldier survived. The Vex hive was disrupted so badly, it collapsed within 48 hours. When the final shuttle reached orbit, Taiyang finally stopped moving. The human collapsed in the shuttle bay, unconscious before hitting the floor. Dr. Minji's team rushed the human to medical. The injuries were severe. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, multiple deep lacerations, extreme dehydration. How did Taiyang keep fighting with these injuries? Lieutenant Bowman stood outside the medical bay, still covered in dirt and blood. Because we needed the help. Because the mission mattered. Because that's what humans do, apparently. They just don't stop. Specialist Hana approached him. Sir, I've been reviewing the data. Taiyang taught us something down there. It wasn't about being stronger or having better weapons. It was about refusing to accept failure. Bowman nodded slowly. We've been fighting the Vex with technology and tactics. Tai Yang fights them with willpower. And that's somehow more effective. In orbit, Council Elder Kyungmin reviewed the mission reports with growing unease. This human completed an impossible mission and taught our soldiers to do the same. What does humanity expect in return for this? Commander Hyan Wu didn't have an answer. But he knew one thing. Whatever price humanity asked, the coalition might not be able to refuse. Because Tai Yang had shown them something more valuable than any weapon. The human had shown them how to win, and that changed everything. Commander Jaewon stared at his display screen, his hands trembling slightly. He had spent 6 weeks investigating Earth and its inhabitants. What he discovered kept him awake at night. Not because humans were monsters, but because they were somehow both better and worse than anyone imagined. You need to see this, he said to Commander Hyan Wu, pulling up files on the main display. All of it. Before we send Tai Yang on another mission. Hyan Wu entered the intelligence room, followed by Dr. Minji and Admiral Su Yun. Tai Yang's success on Drax 2 had made the human a legend among coalition forces. Soldiers who had given up hope now spoke about the mission with renewed determination. But Hyan Wu had noticed something troubling. Nobody knew what humanity really wanted. What did you find? He asked Jaewon. Everything. Jaewon pulled up images of Earth. This is their homeworld. It's beautiful but deadly. Extreme weather patterns. Multiple climate zones. Natural disasters that can level cities. Diseases that killed millions before they developed medicine. And predators. So many predators. Most worlds have dangerous elements, Admiral Seyun said. Not like this. Earth tried to kill humanity at every evolutionary stage. Ice ages that should have caused extinction. Volcanic eruptions that blocked sunlight for years. Asteroid impacts, megadroughts, and humans survived all of it. Jaewon pulled up a timeline. Here's what's disturbing. They didn't just survive. They thrived. Every disaster made them more adaptable. Dr. Minji leaned closer. Show us their evolutionary history. The display changed to show human ancestors. Small, weak creatures with no natural weapons. They started as prey animals, hunted by creatures with better speed, better strength, better everything. Humans should have gone extinct in the first 1,000,000 years. But they didn't, Hyan Wu said. No, they developed something unique. They learned to outlast their predators. Humans invented pursuit hunting. They would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They couldn't outrun their prey, so they just never stopped chasing. Eventually, everything else gave up. Humans didn't. Admiral Suyun watched footage of modern humans running. That explains Tai Yang's endurance, but not the combat ability. That comes later. Jaewon pulled up historical records. Humans have been at war with each other for their entire recorded history. 5,000 years of constant conflict. They fought over territory, resources, beliefs, and sometimes for no reason anyone can explain. They invented weapons specifically designed to kill other humans. Nuclear bombs, chemical weapons, biological warfare. The room fell silent. Dr. Minji spoke carefully. So they're a violent species. They're a contradictory species, Jaewon corrected. Look at this. He showed records of human hospitals, schools, charitable organizations. They also invented medicine to heal each other, art to inspire each other, philosophy to understand each other. They can be incredibly cruel and impossibly kind, sometimes within the same generation. Hyan Wu studied the data. What does this tell us about Tai Yang? That we're dealing with a species that chooses what it becomes. Humans aren't programmed for war or peace. They're programmed for choice. And right now, they've chosen to help us. Ambassador Sunwoo had been working for weeks to establish contact with Earth. When the communication finally connected, he expected to see a military command center or government facility. Instead, he saw a simple office with a woman sitting behind a desk. She introduced herself as Ambassador Nari from Earth's Coalition Liaison Office. "We've been hoping you'd make contact," she said in perfect Coalition standard. "How is Taiyang?" "Effective," Sunwoo replied carefully. "Your soldier has completed missions we considered impossible. But we need to understand, what does Earth want in return?" Nari smiled sadly. "We want what everyone wants. To survive. To grow. To know we're not alone in the universe. And to help others when we can. You've sent a single soldier across the galaxy to fight our war. That's not a small commitment. Taiyang volunteered. We don't conscript our soldiers anymore. We learned that forced service creates resentment. Volunteers fight harder because they believe in the cause." Sunwoo leaned forward. "But what is your cause? What does humanity gain from helping us defeat the Vex?" Nari was quiet for a moment. "Ambassador, do you know what humanity learned from 5,000 years of war? That violence creates more violence. That isolation creates more problems than it solves. That the only way to build something lasting is to help others build it with you." She pulled up an image of Earth. "Our world nearly destroyed itself twice in the last century. Nuclear weapons brought us to the edge of extinction. We survived because enough people chose cooperation over conflict. When we received your distress signal, we remembered what it felt like to face extinction. We remembered what we wished someone had done for us. So we sent help, just like that. No demands, no conditions. We ask only that if you survive this war, you remember who helped you. And someday, when another species needs help, maybe you'll send someone too." The transmission ended. Sunwoo sat in silence, processing what he'd heard. Either humanity was incredibly naive, or they understood something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Back on Fortress Station Meridian, Dr. Yuna conducted psychological evaluations of Taiyang. The human had recovered from the Drax 2 mission and was preparing for redeployment. Yuna wanted to understand what drove someone to fight so hard for strangers. "Tell me about Earth," she said during a session. Taiyang sat calmly, hands folded. "What do you want to know? Why you left? Why you volunteered for this mission?" "Because I could help. Because the alternative was watching people die when I might have saved them. That's not something I can live with. But you nearly died on Drax 2. The injuries should have killed you. Why did you keep fighting?" Taiyang looked at her with those calculating eyes. "Because the civilians needed more time. Because my team needed support. Because the mission wasn't complete. Stopping wasn't an option. Most species have self-preservation instincts that prevent such behavior. Humans have those instincts too. We just also have the ability to override them. We can choose to endure suffering if we believe it serves a greater purpose." Yuna made notes. This ability to override survival instincts through abstract concepts like duty and purpose. Is this common among humans? Common enough. We have soldiers, doctors, firefighters, explorers. People who regularly risk their lives for others. It's not universal, but it's not rare either. And you believe this makes humanity strong? Taiyang paused. "I believe it makes us human. Strength is just what you call it when someone refuses to quit." Later, Yuna presented her findings to the command staff. Taiyang isn't unusual for a human. The psychological profile shows high discipline and training, but the core characteristics are apparently common to the species. They can consciously choose to endure hardship for abstract goals, duty, honor, hope, These concepts override their survival instincts. That's not evolution, Dr. Menji said. That's philosophy. Exactly. Humans aren't dangerous because of their biology. They're dangerous because of their beliefs. They've convinced themselves that some things are worth dying for. And once they believe that, they become nearly unstoppable. Commander Haiyan Wu reviewed all the intelligence reports, the historical data, the psychological profiles, the testimony from Ambassador Nari. It painted a picture of a species that had clawed its way up from the bottom of the food chain through sheer stubborn determination. They're not warriors, he said finally. They're survivors who learn to fight. There's a difference. What difference? Admiral Suyun asked. Warriors fight until they can't fight anymore. Survivors fight until there's nothing left to fight for. And humans haven't found that limit yet. A priority message arrived for Taiyang. It was encrypted with Earth military codes. The human read it in private, expression unreadable. Afterward, Taiyang requested an immediate meeting with Haiyan Wu. What did the message say? Haiyan Wu asked. Earth is facing its own crisis. Political instability. Resource shortages. There's pressure to recall me. Taiyang met his eyes. But I'm not going back. Not until this war is over. Why not? Your homeworld needs you. Because you need me more. And because this mission isn't complete. Earth will survive, or it won't. But the coalition is facing extinction right now. The choice is easy. Haiyan Wu studied the human. You would abandon your own species to save ours. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm honoring the commitment I made. Humans don't walk away from unfinished business. We don't quit just because things get difficult. Taiyang stood. The Vex have a central hive world. Intelligence located it 3 days ago. I want to be part of the assault force. That's a suicide mission. We're talking about millions of Vex in a fortified position. Then we'll need every advantage we can get. And you'll need someone who knows how to fight when the odds are impossible. After Taiyang left, Admiral Suyun turned to Haiyan Wu. The human is refusing to go home to stay here and likely die with us. What does that say about humanity? It says they keep their promises. It says they value commitment over comfort. It says they believe in something bigger than themselves. Haiyan Wu pulled up the tactical display showing the Vex Hive world. And it says we've been fighting this war wrong. We've been trying to beat the Vex with superior technology and tactics. Taiyang is showing us we need to beat them with superior will. Dr. Menji joined them. I've been analyzing everything we know about humans. Their history, their biology, their philosophy. I think I understand now what makes them dangerous. Tell us, Haiyan Wu said. Every other species accepts that some problems can't be solved. Some enemies can't be beaten. Some situations are hopeless. Humans refuse to accept that. They look at impossible situations and think maybe, just maybe, there's a way through. And then they try anyway. They fail more often than they succeed. But they fail forward, learning from every defeat until eventually they find a way to win. And you think that's their weapon? Admiral Suyun asked. No, their weapon is convincing others to believe it too. Taiyang isn't just fighting the Vex. The human is teaching us to fight like humans. To persist when persistence seems pointless. To try when trying seems futile. To believe that tomorrow can be better if we're willing to work for it today. Haiyan Wu looked at the star map, at the red markers showing lost worlds, at the single green marker showing the Vex Hive world. The final target. The last battle. Then we'd better learn fast, he said quietly. Because we're about to face every Vex in the galaxy. And we'll need more than weapons to survive. We'll need what Taiyang brought us. We'll need hope. The briefing hall was filled with soldiers from a dozen different species. They sat in rows, watching Tai Yang stand before a holographic display of the Vex Hive world. The planet was designated Target Omega, a massive fortress world where the Vex had concentrated their forces. Intelligence estimated 5 million active Vex units on the surface, with production facilities churning out thousands more each day. Everything you know about warfare is about to become irrelevant, Tai Yang said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. The Coalition fights with superior technology, numerical advantage, and tactical precision. The Vex have adapted to all of that. They've learned to counter your weapons, predict your strategies, and outlast your resources. Lieutenant Bowman sat in the front row with his team from Drax 2. They had volunteered immediately when the assault was announced. They had learned something from fighting alongside Tai Yang, and they wanted to learn more. So how do we win? Someone called from the back. By fighting like you have nothing to lose. By making every Vex pay more than they're willing to spend. By refusing to quit when quitting makes sense. Tai Yang changed the display to show human military history. My species has a saying, victory belongs to those who believe in it the most. The Vex believe they've already won. We're going to prove them wrong. Captain Dayan raised his hand. With respect, belief doesn't stop plasma fire. Determination doesn't break through armor. We need concrete tactics. You're right. So here they are. Tai Yang pulled up detailed plans. We don't attack where they're strongest. We attack where they think they're safe. We don't fight fair. We use every dirty trick, every environmental hazard, every psychological advantage we can find. And most importantly, we never give them time to adapt. We keep moving, keep attacking, keep pushing until they break. For 3 weeks, Tai Yang trained Coalition soldiers in human warfare doctrine. The lessons were brutal. Soldiers who were used to fighting from prepared positions learned to move constantly. Soldiers who relied on long-range weapons learned close combat. Soldiers who expected air support learned to operate without it. Dr. Minji watched the training sessions with growing amazement. They're transforming, not physically, but mentally. Tai Yang is teaching them that limitations are choices, not absolutes. Private Yunji struggled through an endurance course, her body screaming for rest. Tai Yang ran alongside her. Your body is telling you to stop. Acknowledge that. Then keep moving anyway. I can't. You can. You just don't want to. There's a difference. Can't means impossible. Don't want to means uncomfortable. Learn to recognize which is which. She kept running. Her body didn't get stronger in that moment, but her mind did. Commander Haiyan Wu observed the transformation of his forces with mixed feelings. We're turning our soldiers into something different. Something harder. No, Admiral Suyun replied. We're teaching them what they've always been capable of. They just never had to push this far before. The assault fleet assembled in orbit. 200 warships carrying 50,000 soldiers. The largest military operation in Coalition history. The plan was ambitious. Simultaneous planetary assault from multiple vectors, rapid insertion of ground forces, and systematic destruction of Vex production facilities. Everyone knew the odds. Models predicted 70% casualties, possibly higher. But the alternative was watching the Vex consume the rest of the galaxy. This was the Coalition's last chance. Tai Yang stood in the deployment bay, checking equipment with practiced efficiency. Dr. Minji approached with a medical scanner. You don't have to go down there. You've done enough. You could coordinate from orbit. I told you once that I don't stay safe while others fight. That hasn't changed. But you're just one person. You can't change the outcome of a battle this large. Tai Yang looked at her. I'm not trying to change the outcome. I'm trying to show them it's possible. If one human can stand against impossible odds, then 50,000 Coalition soldiers can do the same. And if you die down there? Then I die fighting. That's acceptable. Dying without trying isn't. The fleet entered orbit around Target Omega. Vex defense systems activated immediately. Energy weapons filled space with deadly light. Ships began taking damage before they even reached deployment range. All forces, this is Commander Hyun Woo. Begin the assault. And remember what Tai Yang taught us. Persistence over perfection. Keep moving. Keep fighting. Don't stop until we win. Drop pods launched by the thousands, streaking through the atmosphere like falling stars. Vex ground forces mobilized to meet them. The battle began. Tai Yang landed in the industrial sector with Lieutenant Bowman's strike team. Their objective was a primary production facility that manufactured Vex warrior units. Destroying it would slow enemy reinforcements. The fighting was immediate and brutal. Vex warriors poured from every structure, attacking in coordinated waves. But this time, coalition soldiers fought differently. They moved in small groups, using cover and mobility instead of holding static positions. They used Vex aggression against them, drawing units into kill zones and ambushes. Specialist Hana coordinated from orbit, watching tactical feeds in disbelief. They're using human tactics, and it's working. Casualty rates are 40% below projections. Because they're not fighting like coalition soldiers anymore, Dr. Minji observed. They're fighting like they believe they can win. Tai Yang's team reached the production facility after 3 hours of continuous combat. The structure was massive, built into the planet's crust, heavily defended. Standard doctrine would call for orbital bombardment. But that would take time they didn't have. We go in directly, Tai Yang said. Plant charges at the reactor core. Manual detonation. That's suicide, one soldier protested. No, it's necessary. The facility needs to be destroyed. If we're not willing to take risks, we've already lost. They breached the facility through a damaged section of wall. Inside, automated defenses and Vex warriors filled the corridors. The fighting was close quarters and chaotic. Every meter was contested. Every second mattered. Lieutenant Bowman took a plasma burn across his chest, the pain staggering. Tai Yang pulled him to cover. Stay down. Catch your breath. The mission will continue. With or without us. But preferably with us. So stay alive. They pushed deeper into the facility. The team was down to 7 members. All wounded. All exhausted. None of them quit. The reactor core was a massive chamber filled with pulsing energy systems. Vex technicians worked frantically to bring additional defenses online. Tai Yang's team fought through them, placing explosive charges on critical junction points. Charges set, Bowman reported. 30 seconds to detonation. We need to evacuate. They ran. Behind them, the charges exploded in sequence, triggering a cascade failure in the reactor. The facility began to collapse. Debris fell from the ceiling. Energy systems overloaded. Fire spread through corridors. They almost made it out. Almost. A support beam fell across the exit, crushing one soldier and blocking the path. Tai Yang tried to move it, but the metal was too heavy, too hot. The human's hands burned touching it. The facility was coming apart around them. Leave him, someone said desperately. We have to go. No. Tai Yang grabbed the beam again, ignoring the pain. Nobody gets left behind. That's not how this works. Lieutenant Bowman joined in, adding his strength. Then the others. Together, they moved the beam just enough. The trapped soldier crawled free. They ran for the exit as the facility collapsed behind them. The explosion lit up the battlefield. The primary production facility was destroyed. Vex reinforcement rates dropped immediately. All across the planet, coalition forces gained momentum, but the cost was mounting. Casualty reports streamed in. Thousands dead. Thousands more wounded. The Vex adapted quickly, learning from each engagement. The battle that was supposed to last hours stretched into days. Taiyang's team was reassigned to support a pinned-down battalion in the northern sector. They had been fighting for 18 hours straight. Everyone was running on empty. But they kept moving because Taiyang kept moving, and somehow that made it possible. On the third day, the Vex launched a massive counterattack. They had finally recognized the threat and committed all available forces. The coalition lines bent under the pressure. Ships in orbit began taking critical damage. Ground forces started to fall back. All units maintain positions, Commander Hyan-Woo ordered. We hold here or we lose everything. But holding meant dying. The Vex kept coming in endless waves. Coalition soldiers fought with desperate courage, but physics and numbers were working against them. Taiyang's unit was overrun defending a field hospital. Vex warriors broke through the perimeter. The human fought with pure ferocity, buying time for wounded soldiers to evacuate. A Vex blade cut deep into Taiyang's side. Another caught the human's leg. Taiyang kept fighting. Lieutenant Bowman pulled the human back. You're done. You need medical attention. The wounded need evacuation. I'm still functional. You're bleeding out. Then I'll bleed and fight. Better than bleeding and quitting. They held the hospital for 6 more hours. Every coalition soldier who could hold a weapon joined the defense. They fought because Taiyang fought. They endured because the human endured. They refused to break because breaking meant abandoning wounded comrades. Reinforcements finally arrived. The hospital was saved. But Taiyang collapsed the moment the last wounded soldier was evacuated. The human's injuries were catastrophic. Multiple deep lacerations. Severe blood loss. Possible organ damage. Broken bones. Dr. Minji's team rushed Taiyang to the medical ship in orbit. She worked frantically, hands steady despite the fear. Don't you dare die? Not after everything you've shown us. Don't you dare? The surgery took 14 hours. Taiyang's body fought to survive with the same stubborn persistence the human showed in combat. Slowly, impossibly, the vital signs stabilized. The battle for Target Omega lasted 7 days. The Vex were defeated. Their hive world was destroyed. Their production capacity was shattered. The war wasn't over, but the coalition had won something more important than victory. They had learned they could win. Casualty rates were 43%. High, but not the 70% predicted. Soldiers survived because they fought differently. Because they believed survival was possible. Because one human had shown them how. Taeyang woke 3 days after the surgery, surrounded by coalition soldiers who had come to stand vigil. Private Yoonji was there. Lieutenant Bowman, Captain Daeun, Specialist Hannah, dozens more. They had come to see the human who taught them persistence had value. Commander Hyan-Woo entered the medical bay. The Council wants to award you full coalition citizenship and military honors. Earth has requested your return, but they're leaving the choice to you. Taiyang tried to sit up, wincing. The war isn't over. No, but we can finish it. You showed us how. We don't need you to fight our battles anymore. We need you to recover, to go home, to let us prove we learned the lesson. And what lesson was that? That we're not defined by our limitations. We're defined by what we choose to do despite them. You came here as one soldier and changed an entire military's philosophy. That's worth more than any weapon. Taiyang was quiet for a moment. I was afraid when I came here. Afraid I wouldn't be enough. Afraid I would fail you. But you didn't fail, Dr. Minji said. You succeeded in ways we're still discovering. I almost died on that planet, but you didn't. You chose to survive. Just like you chose to fight. Just like you chose to help strangers across the galaxy. Lieutenant Bowman stepped forward. You taught us that choice matters more than capability. That's not something we'll forget. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Sunwoo transmitted a message to Earth. We received a living weapon called human, and its mystery changed everything. Not because humans are invincible, but because they refuse to accept defeat. They showed us that persistence is stronger than power, that will is more valuable than weapons, that choosing to endure is the greatest strength any species can possess. We offer Earth full membership in the Coalition and our eternal gratitude. Thank you for showing us what we could become. On Earth, Ambassador Nari read the message and smiled. We didn't send Taiyang to conquer or to dominate. We sent help because we were asked, and because we remembered what it felt like to face extinction alone. If the galaxy remembers anything about humanity, let it be this. We showed up when nobody else would. And that's enough. Taiyang stood on the observation deck of Fortress Station Meridian, looking out at the stars. The injuries were healing. The pain was manageable. The mission was complete. Commander Haiyan Wu joined him. Will you go home now? Eventually. But first, I want to see if my students learned their lessons. I want to watch Coalition forces finish what we started. And then? Then I go home and tell them the galaxy is full of species worth fighting for, worth believing in, worth helping. Taiyang smiled. That's the real mystery, Commander. Not what humans are, but what we all become when we choose to be better. When we choose persistence over surrender. When we choose hope over despair. That's what you taught us? No, I just reminded you what you already knew. That every species has the capacity for greatness. You just have to choose it. Every single day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. They stood in silence, watching the stars. Out there, Coalition forces fought with new determination. They moved with new tactics. They believed in new possibilities. One human had shown them the way. But they would walk the path themselves. And that, Taiyang thought, was exactly how it should be. The mystery was never what humans were. The mystery was what everyone could become when they learned to persist, to endure, to choose tomorrow over today's pain. That mystery changed everything, and it always would.